Hey everyone, Benson, Performance Capability. Hope you're doing well. So why do some people get better at everything they touch while others work twice as hard and stay exactly where they started? See, I used to think that it was talent or maybe luck or connections. Then I met a girl called Jamie, a personal trainer who'd been stuck at the same gym for over 5 years, watching new trainers, build massive lists, client lists, while she struggled to book sessions with new clients. She was working 60 hours a week, taking every certification course, doing everything right, but nothing seemed to change. 6 months later, she had a waiting list of clients and opened a new studio. What happened in between wasn't some breakthrough moment or, lucky break. It was one small shift in how she approached that development and that improvement in her career. A shift so simple, it sounds almost silly when you first hear it. But here's the thing. This same shift works whether you're trying to advance, your career or learn a new skill, get in shape, or improve your relationships. It doesn't matter whether you're, working on this or that. The same principle applies. The principle actually is identical in every situation. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the beauty of it. You'll start noticing who's using it and who isn't. You'll understand why your coworker seems less qualified and keeps getting promoted. Why your friend who barely practices playing the guitar seems better than someone who's been playing for or grinding for years and years. So today I'm going to show you exactly what Jamie discovered and how you can use it, starting today. I'm excited to share it. Let's run the intro.
Hold your breath, all the moves we're making.
Right now, as you're watching this, there's a specific zone of development that could accelerate your growth, by up to 400%. But here's the problem. 96% of people will never find it. They'll spend literally years pushing in the wrong areas, wondering why their progress feels painfully slow. But think about it for a minute. You know someone probably who's been doing the same job for 10 years or more, but isn't better than they were maybe 2 years ago. You've seen musicians who practice religiously but plateau indefinitely. Athletes who train harder than anyone else but never break through. And here's the devastating truth of it all. They're all working outside of this critical zone that I want to talk to you about. So let me tell you about Antonio Stradivarius. Most people think his legendary violins were the result of some mysterious wood or secret varnish. But here's what the research actually reveals. Stradivarius discovered that the exact tension point where wood fibers stretch without breaking could be the key to a dramatic change in sound. You see, violin strings create roughly 70 pounds of pressure. Too little tension and the wood produces a muddy sound. Too much and it cracks under pressure. But there's a precise point, what luthiers call the resonance sweet spot, where wood transforms sound waves into something transcendent. Stradivarius didn't make violins, he engineered instruments that lived permanently in their optimal tension zone. And here's the breakthrough. Your development works exactly the same way. So Dr. Ann Dietrich at Georgia Tech discovered something remarkable about the human brain under optimal challenge. When you're working at exactly the right level of difficulty, what we call the developmental edge, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals that literally rewires neural pathways much faster. But here's where it gets fascinating. This zone is incredibly narrow. Too easy and your brain conserves energy. No growth occurs. Too difficult and the amygdala triggers stress responses that actually inhibit learning. So the sweet spot, it's technically just about 4 to 7% beyond your current capability. Think about that for a minute. Not 50% harder, not 200% more challenging, just a precise, measurable increment that your nervous system recognizes as worth the investment. Think about that for a minute. See, I call this personally the Goldilocks Principle of growth. Not too hard, not too easy, but precisely right where your current developmental stage exists. See, US Air Force has a problem. They train pilots to fly jets, but they struggle to develop the split-second decision-making that separates good pilots from legendary ones. So they created something called red flag exercises, war games where pilots face scenarios exactly 15% more complex than their current skill level. So here's what they discovered. When scenarios were too simple, pilots got bored and they didn't improve. When scenarios were impossibly complex, pilots froze up and actually regressed in their abilities. But at exactly 15% beyond their comfort zone, the magic happened. See, think about this. Pilots began making intuitive decisions they thought they'd been taught. They started seeing patterns in chaos. They developed what they called military calls or situational awareness, the ability to process complex information and respond perfectly under pressure. So think about the implications of that. This is your development action in Edge. It's not about pushing harder, it's about pushing precisely. My mentor once told me about a master carpenter in Kyoto who could identify the exact grain direction in wood just by running his hand across it. When I asked how he developed his ability, he said something that changed how I think about development forever. He said, "I never tried to feel the whole tree. I practiced feeling one grain at a time, then maybe two, then three. Each day I asked my hands to detect just slightly more than the day before. After 30 years, I can feel the wood's entire story." See, this is the opposite to how most people approach growth. They try to leap from grain 1 to grain, 100. They want to feel the whole tree on day 1. But mastery, true mastery, is built one precisely calibrated increment at a time. That's natural law. See, the carpenter understood something profound. Your nervous system can only integrate small increases in complexity. Push too hard, too fast, and you overwhelm the entire system that you're trying to develop. Terence Tao is widely considered one of the world's greatest mathematicians. He made a startling admission. He said the problems that lead to the biggest breakthroughs weren't the hardest ones he attempted. They were the ones that required him to stretch exactly one conceptual leap beyond his current understanding. When I attack problems that are 3 or 4 steps ahead, I either solve them using old methods, which means I didn't grow, or I fail completely and learn nothing. But problems that require exactly one new insight, those transformed how I think. This is the development sweet spot in action. It's not about attempting the impossible, it's about making the possible inevitable. One precisely calibrated challenge at a time at the right point of development. Now, let me give you the 3-step diagnostic system I use with elite performers to find their personal growth sweet spot. So here it is. Step number 1, the engagement test. Can you maintain focused attention on this challenge for extended periods of time without either boredom or overwhelm? Just ask yourself that question. That's point number 1. If your mind wanders, it's too easy. If you feel anxious or you want to quit, it's probably too hard. But in the sweet spot, you enter what psychologists call flow state. Time seems to disappear because the challenge level perfectly matches your current capability. Step 2, the progress indicator. Are you improving measurably every practice session? Are you in your sweet spot? Progress isn't dramatic, but it's consistent. You should be able to do something at the end of each session that you couldn't do at the beginning. Small improvements, but undeniable ones. Step 3, this is called the energy assessment. Do you finish practice sessions feeling energized rather than drained? This is counterintuitive, but when you're working in your optimal development zone, you actually gain energy. Why? Because your brain rewards you with dopamine for operating, at what I call the edge. You feel accomplished, not simply exhausted. So here's what happens when you consistently operate in the development sweet spot. Your growth compounds each day, between 4, 7, maybe 10%. Probably the lower number is more accurate. Improvement builds in previous days' progress. After 100 days of precisely calibrated challenge, you haven't improved 4 to 7%. You've improved more than 400%. That's significant. This is why the masters in every field seem to improve effortlessly while everyone else struggles. They're not more talented, they're more precise. They've learned to find their sweet spot and stay there consistently. See, the choice is yours. You can keep grinding in the wrong zones, hoping harder work will eventually pay off, or you can learn to calibrate your challenges with the precision of a Stradivarius violin. You can watch your development accelerate beyond, what you thought was possible up until this point. So your sweet spot is waiting. The question is, are you ready to find it? Can you find it? And before you go, let me leave you with 5 critical insights that can transform your development starting today. First one, your optimal challenge zone is narrower than most people think. Most people swing wildly between the easy and impossibly hard. The sweet spot is typically 4 to 7% beyond your current capability. Precise enough to stretch you, manageable enough to succeed. Second, progress in your sweet spot feels different. You won't be exhausted or frustrated so much. Instead, you'll feel energized and accomplished. If your practice sessions drain you, you're working outside of the optimal zone that I'm talking about. Number 3, consistency trumps intensity. Let me say that again. Consistency trumps intensity every time. One precisely calibrated session daily will outperform sporadic heroic efforts by massive margins. The compound effect only works when you show up consistently. 4, your sweet spot is dynamic. It moves as you grow. What challenged you perfectly last month might be too easy today. Stay vigilant about recalibrating your challenges as your capabilities begin to expand. And then number 5, this isn't just theory. In my work as a performance strategist with, individuals, teams, and organizations, I've seen this principle transform companies, careers, relationships, and entire organizational cultures. The science, which is really what it is clear. The results are always measurable. The question isn't whether this works, the question is whether you'll have the discipline enough to find your edge and stay there, consistently, rather than getting seduced by false promises of dramatic changes. Your breakthrough isn't hiding behind some impossible mountain waiting for you. See, the question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you'll have the discipline to find your edge and stay there consistently, rather than, getting seduced by false promises of dramatic challenges or the comfortable trap of easy wins. Your breakthrough isn't hiding behind some, impossible mountain. It's waiting just 4 to 7% beyond where you are right now. And that, my friend, is a journey that you can start today. So in our next episode, we'll dive into the precision protocol, the exact system I use to help high performers identify and maintain their development edge across multiple disciplines and domains. Because here's what most people don't realize. You can have multiple sweet spots operating at once, accelerating your growth in ways that seem, almost unfair to everyone else watching from the outside. But this is a real phenomenon that can be tapped into. Until then, find your edge, stay there, and watch what becomes possible. So if you found this message useful, check out this video up here. This is Ben Benson for Performance Capability, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, follow the 7 stars. I'll see you soon.